Now, around 1,000 people have attended a rally outside Belfast City Hall. The crowd, which included families and children, blew horns and whistles to take a noisy but peaceful stand against the violence which has erupted after the council decided to limit the days it flies the Union flag. 29 police officers were hurt in clashes between Loyalists and Nationalists yesterday. Our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, reports.
They came, they saw, they made a hell of a racket.
It's a pretty straightforward idea, the so-called silent majority, embarrassed majority perhaps, about what is happening on some streets in Northern Ireland, come here to the City Hall and become the silent majority no longer.
So, choose your weapon of mass commotion. The cooking pot, the harmonica, the boron. Well, you hardly need me to tell you.
I don't agree with what's going on, and I have a 15-year-old daughter who's hiding here, and she didn't grow up in the Troubles, and I don't want the future for her to go pear-shaped the way it was for me when I was younger. So
this is our second peace rally, so I'm not entirely sure if it's going to change anything. I think what it does is it makes the people who come to it feel a lot better about themselves.
Well, I feel like we all need to stand up and show our support for the city of Belfast. And I'm just sick to death of watching these people who have, if they ever had a point, they've entirely lost sight of it now. And we've no support to give them, and I think that's why we come here today to say that.
No flags of any kind here, and that, of course, is just what the organisers asked for.
This is not in response to a flags issue. This is in response to violence from all sides, be it dissident Republicans killing police officers and prison officers, or loyalist flag violence that's, for one, it's actually destroying our economy. It's destroying our way of life. The idea that a couple of hundred people could actually bring a city of the size of Belfast to a standstill, it's just really not on the 21st century.
Half a mile away in the short Strand, Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams meeting people whose houses were attacked by loyalists yesterday and saying this won't imperil the peace process. He condemned all violence, but said people here did have the right to defend their homes against loyalist attack.
What we were told by the people that we dealt with and talked to this morning is that they came out of their homes after they were attacked.
But video from yesterday shows nationalists running and attacking the loyalist marchers before they'd even arrived opposite the Short Strand estate. That said, the overwhelming amount of violence came yesterday once again, not from nationalists but from the loyalist mob. The usual people in the usual place. Some of them, look at the kid under the policeman's arm, very young indeed. By the end of all this, it had been the worst day's violence yet, 29 police officers injured. This city desperately needs a peace rally, but it needs political engagement with these people on the streets as well. Alex Thompson, Channel 4 News, Belfast.
Well, I'm joined now from Belfast by Dr. Peter Sherlow, a professor at Queen's University who specialises in conflict resolution and has written extensively on loyalist and Republican violence. Well, clearly this started about the flag, but since this weekend it's now clear that it's about much more than that. Why, in your view, are working-class loyalists so angry?
Well, I think we have to start off by saying some working-class loyalists are angry. There are other people within the loyalist community who are quite clearly trying to stop this violence and are trying to provide a more positive leadership. The issue seems to have had some air breathed into it when it became more of an anti-DUP, anti-Ulster Unionist, anti-political process, and I assume also anti-agreement type feeling within sections of that community. It has lasted much longer than some of us would have assumed it would have done so. But I think the point that's really important here is that if you look at the population of Belfast, the people who were out yesterday protesting and rioting constitute less than 1% of the Protestant Unionist population of this city.
But if it involves such a small minority, why has it gone on for so long in your view?
Well, it's gone on so long because it's obviously well organised. I think it's also gone on so long because there is some tenacity amongst those who are taking place. But I think it has gone on so long because they've rejected and refused to accept much better analysis of what's happening within this city. They refuse to accept that the type of leadership that has been provided by the main unionist parties and also by a smaller party called the Progressive Unionist Party. They've refused to really engage with people who are offering alternatives such as the Unionist Forum, which is looking into these issues and debates that they have. And I think one of the reasons why it is sustaining itself is because it's actually not in any way based upon any actual ideas at all. It's simply based upon anger.
But do you think that the unionist leadership should take a tougher stand against this minority that you're talking about, given that obviously the Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness, used to call the Republican dissidents traitors, didn't he?
Yeah, I think one of the problems, the difficulty there for them is that many of these people who are involved are questioning unionist leadership, and they're questioning why, you know, they have poor educational qualifications, why they have poverty, etc. I think one of the big problems in this society since 1998 and since the beginning of the peace process and after the Belfast Agreement was that unionists didn't sell the agreement to their people. They didn't point out, of course, that Articles 2 and 3 of the Irish Constitution were changed, that territorial claim to Northern Ireland was removed, that, you know, Sinn Féin had to sit in a partitionist assembly, that Sinn Féin had to sign up to the principle of consent, and too much of the sort of the prophets of doom were allowed to sort of constantly say that unionism had lost, and quite clearly within our peace process nobody lost. The whole point of a peace process is how you bring and transform cultures of conflict in new and positive ways, and that's where the vast majority of people are in this society today. They're in that more positive terrain.
Let me just ask you finally, you specialise in conflict resolution. There's this crucial meeting next week, the British and Irish governments and the First and Deputy First Ministers. What do you recommend they do to resolve this conflict now?
Well, the first thing is that, of course, the unionist leadership has to take on board what people's criticisms are of them, but they have to reflect on them. They have to be robust. They have to point out that if you're going to make contentions about the Catholics get more than the Protestants, or if you make contentions that the other side is winning, then you have to ask these people to provide evidence. You have to push for evidence. We can't afford to have a conflict transformation process that is not evidence driven. That's the first point. Secondly, there has to be robust leadership. There has to seriously be a questioning of why this is happening, and there has to be a different language, and it's a language of what progress would be.
Dr. Peter Shellow, thank you very much for joining me.